Hello everyone, I'm Prugi and today I'll show you about this deck from Kalista. I found it on Reddit. I'll post the original thread in the comments below, but I'll go through the deck and have votes as well from my climb from Diamond 4 to Masters, and I'll do a voiceover over the games, and here I'll show you what my opinion about the cards is. Although I'll still post the original idea and the original creator, you'll be able to see it in the comments. So basically, if you go through all the cards, Crawling Sensation is a pretty good card because the point of this deck is to generate as much units as possible to stack up Dehu and Dur, and then finish it either by Overwhelm or by using Atrocity on Dehu. So this card by itself is really good of generating it. For 1 mana it generates 2 units, and it's also working really well with Elise. Elise, obviously, we have 2 champions in this deck, so we play Elise and Kalista, and the win condition obviously is not that any of them have to level up, but if we manage to level up any of those 2 champions, it brings us a huge bonus to the win condition. So Crawling Sensation basically just works really well with Kalista, same with Hapless Aristocrat. If possible, if we get this in Mulligan, I usually play it on turn 1. We could also skip it and maybe save some mana for spells like Vile Feast if we start on turn 2. I mean, if we start attacking on turn 2, but otherwise, yeah, it's just a great card. It generates 2 units for 1 mana, and if the Hapless Aristocrat dies, then obviously the Spiderling has a good synergy with Elise. I don't think this needs explaining. It's just a really good to drop, 3/2 fearsome, and it's spider, so works great with Elise. Elise is just probably the best turn to play in this deck, although sometimes if you play against Corina Control or some other control decks with lots of removal spells, I would rather play Arcanite Horror maybe, or Mistwraith even, to bait out and then play Elise. But just by itself, if you're sure, if they don't have free spell mana on turn 2, you can play Elise and they can't remove it with this monkey removal spell or the thermogenic beam. So by itself on turn 2 she's a really good play, but you'll see later in the videos that it depends on situation. Glimpse Beyond is just an insane card in this deck. You can play it usually with Hapless Aristocrat. It brings the biggest value, I think, although it's really good against control decks as well. If they want to use removal on one of your units, you can, if you have mana, you just kill it yourself, so it basically opponent wastes some of their value and you draw cards. In some cases maybe you wouldn't have Dehu Endure or Atrocity in your hand, and this really helps you to draw as many cards as possible, to draw the units with synergy, especially Mistwraiths and or any other units. Is just a really great card to get for your deck as fast as possible. Mistwraiths, just a really insane card for 2 mana, because with all the synergy that this brings, if you manage, for example, on this would be my best play. If for example I had 2 cards with if I had 2 cards with two Mistwraiths on turn 2 in my hand, I would play one on turn 2, then one on turn 3. And if you have Wraith Color for turn 4, then you would have basically 4 units with 4 attack on turn 4, which is, and 3 of them would be fearsome. And in case Mistwraith dies and Kalista levels up, then obviously when she summons it, it brings another attack stat to all of the Mistwraiths. Same goes with Wraith Color. If Wraith Color dies, then if Kalista is leveled up and attacks, she will summon Wraith Color and also Mistwraith on your board, which is just insane in my opinion. I think Wraith Color is the biggest unit in our decks, so If you manage to pull this off, I think this brings the biggest value out of the Kalista's level up. Vile Feast, obviously, another great spell in case you play, for example, I think it works the best against Corina Control because they play lots of spiders, so you can just kill them, or sometimes it's even good to just drain one HP from any unit and just be able to have a spider to block with. Obviously, it works great with Elise as well with the synergy. Or sometimes you can even use it on your own unit. For example, let's say 2 of your units died with Kalista on board, so she's at 2 out of 3 units for level up, and they sometimes wouldn't think that that you will be able to level her up on that turn. So you can even use it on your units because lots of your units are at 1 HP, so the Spider's Elise spawns, Calling Sensation, Helpless Aristocrat. Or you can even use it sometimes if they want to use, for example, Glimpse Beyond on one of their units with 1 HP left. It's really good to deny that as well. Frenzied Skeeter, if you have lots of spiders on board, it just brings insane value. Like even on turn 3, you can play just by itself. You can use it as a great tool for decreasing the damage you're gonna receive. I think if you play against aggro decks, it's one of the must-have cards because it will greatly reduce the damage taken and maybe enable you to easier win. Kalista is not, like I said before, by itself you don't have to play to level her up. Obviously, if you can level her up, that would be just insane value. But usually you can just play it as a free mana for free fearsome unit. Brings tons of value. Usually they put lots of focus on removing that so your other units can attack, which helps you a lot by doing as much damage as possible early on. Then we have Wraith Caller. I said before, it's probably the best turn 4 play. Happened a lot of time, even though I only have 5 cards from Freljord that it didn't level up, which is not the best case scenario, but you can use it if you attack second on turn 4. It's a great attacking tool, but if you attack first on turn 4, it's even great for defending, because honestly in this deck you don't care as much how many of your units die. Obviously with Wraith Caller you want to push as much damage as possible, but even if your units die, it works really well because your main condition is still they who endure. So then Brood Awakening, just great value for this deck. For 5 mana you get 3 2/1 spiders. Obviously if you played any spiders before, it brings even more value, and if not, it just either brings you 3 attacking units. If they don't have anything to defend, you can play it on turn 3 in case you haven't played anything, but that should never be the case. But on the other hand, it's a great defending tool because it's just insane. For 5 mana you get 3 2/1 blocking units, and obviously it just stacks up they who endure even more. Atrocity I don't think needs explanation. Mostly it's used on they who endure with about, you would usually get your opponent to around 10 HP or even lower. If you manage to get your opponent really low, you could use Atrocity on some other units. You could also combine it. Sometimes I would play attack when on attack, or even defense when it's opponent's turn. I would play Battle Fury on one of my other units, for example even a 1/1 Spiderling, and then they maybe wouldn't think to remove that because it's not like Kalista or something. So you could use Atrocity basically on any other unit that would enable you to win, but you'll see in VODs, you have to be careful when to use it because sometimes they might have recall, they might have even deny. What else? They could also have the vengeance, or yeah, I think those 3 spells are your biggest enemy of Atrocity. They who endure, obviously your win condition. You wouldn't keep it in your hand at the start of the game, but obviously by turn 5, 6 you would kind of want to have it in your hand to know how to play, because sometimes you can play it on turn 6 just to bring the presence. So with The only way they can usually kill Deku Endure is with Vengeance, or with some really big units, or one of the problems I had was, for example, playing against Demacia with that, I don't remember the name of the spell, but basically for 2 mana they silence your unit, or basically remove all the text and enhancements to the card, so it would go back to 1/1. But if they recall you, you can just summon it again, it will keep all the stats, so that's not a problem. Battle Fury, it's a great card to finish. For example, I think quite a few games have managed to finish the game on turn 5, because I had 5 normal mana and 3 spell mana, and the opponent thinks, for example, they would be left with, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 HP, or even 8 HP left, or somewhere around that, because you get them solo by turn 5 quite a few times, and they wouldn't think to maybe block 2/1 or 1/1 Spiderling. So on the attack you would just wait for them to put the blocking units, and then maybe if they don't have, usually, I don't know, if you play against Ionia and they have less than 4 mana, you would just decide to play Battle Fury on one of your Spiderlings, because they can't kill it, because then becomes a 9 attack and 5 defense unit, so there's not a single card that would enable them to defend that. You'll see in some of the games Battle Fury was my win condition as well. I'll post the deck code in the description, and now we can go to the VODs where I'll explain in how I mulligan, and for some bigger decisions what you should do. Okay, as I said before here, I'll be going through VODs, talking about my mulligans and some of my choices. And yeah, this is the first game. I'm on 4, I think, and we're against Noxus, Piltar and Zon, against Raven and Azriel. So on the mulligan, I think most of the choices are okay. We keep Skeeter because maybe it's more of an aggro deck. Obviously we don't need Battle Fury, but yeah, then we draw it nonetheless. We don't have anything on turn 1, just wait on turn 2. And here I was thinking maybe playing Elise, but in case he has some other spells for the next round, I would just take Misrate to block, because I don't care as much about Misrate as I would if Elise had 2 HP, because then I would be in a range of getting killed by Mystic Shock. But now he has to use Thermogenic Beam or the 3 mana spell. Here obviously we play Elise to generate as much value as possible. We could play Skeeter as well, but then we would only get 1 unit to decrease the attack. And then we just attack, because we don't really care if Elise dies. The point of this deck is just to deal as much damage as possible, so obviously he couldn't block the Mist Wraith, and even if Elise dies it's fine, because it just generates the value for the Deku Endure. Here he goes for open attack, and an obvious decision is just to block Draven. And we summon Wraithcaller because it's just on the curve for 4 mana, and the Mist Wraith gives 1 more. And yeah, get excited. We don't, I mean, obviously it's good to bait out some of the spells as early as possible, in case you would have, I don't know, Kalista release, but here actually our whole board gets killed off. So we were kinda lucky here to draw Brood Awakening. For 5 mana we can bring another 3 units, and he's not able to block with the Draven. I mean, if he does. We also, yeah, summon Hapless Aristocrat. Again, just summon as many units as you can. Then she goes for a stun, and we attack with all the units. We don't really care that much about blocking, because all of his units he pretty much has more or less to attack. He wouldn't want to get them killed on a defense because they don't bring as much value. So here again we just block, we don't, I mean we could do a reverse order as well, doesn't matter where we set any of those units. Whatever we set against Draven is gonna die anyways, and the other unit is 1-1. Although here he protects his 1-1 unit, we don't really care. And again we summon Wraith Caller, we could summon they who endure as well. Which I think, yeah, okay, I decided to go for this. I think it's just better because his deck doesn't run any spells that would enable him to remove my 10-10 unit. So that's why I just decided to summon it as well. Also here I think he's kinda desperate to summon this, but obviously there's no unit that would help him to really decrease the amount of damage he's gonna take on the next round. So we just go with open attack with only this unit, because now we don't want to waste Spiderling as well. If we would have more units than the opponent, then obviously we would attack. And yeah, we just have enough mana for Battle Fury, and that is pretty much I think the end of the game. I don't think the deck he runs has any response to our attack. Yeah, that's pretty much the first game. We're kinda lucky with the draw, especially with Brood Awakening and maybe getting the Wraith Caller and everything, but you know, it goes both ways. Okay, the next game is against Elise. This is pretty much, I think, Corina Ledros control deck. Probably the most hated one. I think the most of my losses were against this deck, but I kinda managed to get more wins lately, because I realized that I realized how I have to play against it. Wait, I'm sorry, I'll have to go back again. So yeah, we wouldn't want to take 2 Brood Awakenings. Crawling Sensation, usually, yeah, you don't want to have it early on. I mean early, like you want some other units to spawn at first. And because we're playing against Corina Ledros control, I kinda always want, if I have an option, I would take Brood Awakening, just because the number of spiders they can summon already by turn 3 or 4. So we kinda want to have something to defend as well. And yeah, here the obvious choice was Elise, obviously on turn 2. He doesn't have enough mana to remove it because he played Hapless Aristocrat on turn 1, so he can't really do anything. He summons Elise, which is probably, I think, the best turn 2 move for his deck. And here blocks with Hapless Aristocrat, but he can't summon any more spiders because he was out of mana. Obviously goes for the open attack. We block. We don't really care that much if Elise dies, but here, yeah, we skip the attack, because if we block if one of his units dies, then he can summon with Crawling Sensation 2 more spiders, which would mean that his Elise would level up. But with this we kinda don't enable the enemy to do that. Although here he could with 3 mana he could do Glimpse Beyond and then Crawling Sensation if he had those 2 cards, but then he rather decides to just kill my Elise, which I don't really care that much again. And here I'm kinda unlucky. The Wraith Caller did not spawn Mistwraith, which means since we have 2 They Who Endure in our hand, there's either a chance that we have the 3rd one next draw, or that there's a Battle Fury, because we only have 5 Freljord cards in our deck. And we go for the full open attack. The only chance, I mean, he probably he doesn't block because his plan is here to just level up Elise. If you have a chance, you would obviously try to prevent that, because even against this deck it can be really dangerous. Most of your units don't have more than 3 attacks, so you can't really block these little spiderlings. Although here he decides to pull my units. I don't know why, maybe for Wraith Collar, because I could kill Elise, but I didn't quite understand why he would go for that. Also against this deck you kinda have to be careful for the... okay, he had Brood Awakening, so he just summons them again. You kinda have to be careful for the Whisper's Call, I think. Withering Wail, or I don't know what. That 5 mana spell that deals 1 damage to all units. You're pretty vulnerable to that. And here, instead of summoning Dehundur or another Spiralings, I just decided to go for open attack, because then he's kind of forced to block them all. Also, he can't use... he's kind of forced to use some other spells as well. I just want for him to kill as many spiders as possible, and actually hope for that. Yeah, I didn't notice this before, but in case he does that, I had just enough mana that if he doesn't decide to block because he was really preserving of his spiders, I could just finish the game with the Battle Fury. So the next game is against Katarina Zed. I haven't played much against this deck, so I had no idea what I'm against. Let's see, I don't remember what I decided to keep here, but I think it would make sense to keep most of the cards in hand, but this means that then we don't have enough units to spawn. Like, we don't have any turn 2 unit, which is quite crucial in most of our choices. But yeah, then I decided to just take everything, because Glimpse Beyond is really good against Katarina, because when he attacks you can sacrifice your unit and she won't get the level up. So this is quite a big value. Turn 2, yeah, we don't have any unit, we just pass, let him attack. We don't care that much. Like, sometimes we just even let them go. We let the opponent to damage us as much, not as much as they want, but like, let's say we can skip first 2 attacks, I would say. Here again, we don't have anything to summon. It's really bad draw. Maybe I should have changed some cards in the mulligan. But yeah, unfortunately I don't want to waste Skitter, I don't want to waste any spells yet, so kind of forced to just skip the first round. I think I was thinking about using all 3 Vile Fists, but then again he could also have the... I think the Twin Disciplines, I think the spell is called, so basically burst spell that gives you 3 HP. Instead I just go for Brood Awakening, because I'm able to block both of the Zeds and his Shadow's attack. And he goes for another Elusive. We didn't really care. I don't think... Yeah, I don't think it's the smartest to just go for to kill that Elusive. We don't care about... Free damage is not that much early on, because the point of this deck is to just, I don't know, kill, to do as much damage as possible. And also sometimes, I mean, this deck is kinda, let's say, back and forth. You're either in a role of an attack, so either you attack a lot, or sometimes in this case your enemy has more units than you kinda take a role of a defender. So I think I go for Skitterer, because then if I attack with Skitterer, if he wants to block it, he has to do it with Zed. He then, yeah, Yeah, I decided to attack with Scooter because he won't probably sacrifice that, and I just keep all the other units just in case. I mean, for the next attack, because then my board is full. So yeah, just to keep my board full in case he attacks then the next round. And used 2 Vile Fees because now I can use again. I think he made a mistake here because he realizes that as well. He shouldn't have put as many units, maybe not put this 1/1 because then his shadow had no place to appear on the board. Here I go for the Vile Feast. I mean, he could use the Twin Disciplines, but I think it doesn't bring any value. And of course, maybe I should I lose here a bit of a value because my board was full, so the spider didn't really spawn for me. I'm kinda, I wouldn't say unlucky with the draw, but I don't have really any units that I would like to play. There's no Kalista, there's no Elise, there's no Wraith Caller. I'm basically relying on just the 2 draws. Yeah, a bit of BMing here. He was kinda lucky as well, like me, a few rounds with the Wraith Caller. I don't really know what Noxus units he plays. I don't know, that was really unlucky from him. And here maybe I shouldn't, maybe looking back, I shouldn't summon this. Because sometimes it's good to have at least one spot left for, I don't know, maybe your next draw, because if you have full board, you can't really summon anything, but because he's attacking, I think it was fine. Now here, I don't know, I don't remember if he used Blade's Edge. Yeah, but this is the point here. You use Glimpse Beyond, you block Katarina, and then use Glimpse Beyond, because if he managed to pull off this attack, then Katarina would go back to his hand with 4 mana left. And yeah, oh, yeah, this is a really good play from him. He had another Katarina in hand, and that's her spell. He still wasn't able to attack with her. I don't understand why he... Oh, now I understand. He didn't use Blade's Edge before because he knew he's gonna use it after the attack. Now I'm left with no units here. And yeah, I was really lucky to draw Dehundur. Since he plays Ionia, there's actually no other card that would screw me over except for a Recall, I think. I'm not sure if he plays it in this deck, but I had no other choice. I had to summon it, I had to attack because this was my only option. Now I decided to summon another one just to be able to block units, because here he can attack 3 times with Katarina. Now the mistake I did, I decided not to block Katarina, which now looking back, looking at this replay again, was a mistake, because I should have blocked Katarina here and sacrificed, because I play Glimpse, I have Glimpse Beyond in my hand, so I should put the lower Dehundur to block Katarina and just sacrifice it. But instead here I decide to block Katarina and just let him reset her. Maybe the better choice would be to even block another unit and let Katarina go through, but I still think the best choice here would be to just, yeah, block Katarina and then just sacrifice it like I do here. Obviously I'm gonna kill the lower unit. So yeah, I just basically wasted 1 round. I took more damage than I should have for no reason. I mean, here he could still have Recall or something for my second one. So yeah, he'll push 5 damage, so I go to 5 HP. And again, kinda lucky with this draw, because I summon another 2 units, which he'll be sort of forced to block on the next round in case he doesn't have anything else. Now he finally has the value from the Wayfinder, but I just decided to play Skitter because I'm still left with 8 mana in case he can't block some of my units. So here I have 2 Fearsomes and 1 really big Overwhelm unit, so the only chance here he can do was to recall it, and he didn't have that card, so I win here. And this is, I think, how I got to Diamond 4.